JoyNews desk coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlemlewe on DTT because we're free to work. Coming up this morning, the IMF is entreating Ghana to stay committed to its bailout program in order to fully realize its benefits. But what has necessitated this? We'll bring you all the analysis shortly. Also this morning, expert dissenting views. A chairman of Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating alleged plot to remove IGP reveals as he reiterates the committee will not be used as a conveyor belt to serve anyone's interest.
What was put in the public domain is so fraudulent that there's no signature of the chairman, there's no signature of the clerk.
Okay.
So who is trying to pretend that the committee has come out with a report?
And as the world marks Safer Internet Day, we explore growing concerns over online safety as the global initiative is aimed at promoting responsible digital citizenship and safeguarding users from online threats. We have details coming up shortly. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Do stay for details. The International Monetary Fund has emphasized the importance for Ghana to stay committed to its bailout program to fully realize its benefits. The Bretton Woods institution stressed the need for effective implementation of structural reforms, especially following the disbursement of the $600 million second tranche to the government. However, Ghana's efforts to engage the IMF for consensus on anticipated revenue shortfalls due to planned suspension of the VAT on electricity following the stiff opposition from the Trades Union Congress. But what exactly is the agreement between IMF and Ghana as far as taxes and revenue mobilization is concerned? I've been joined by lead data and research analyst here at JoyNews, Isaac Kofiege, who has been studying the IMF program document and has come through with this finding. So first, Kofi, run us through what the deal is between Ghana and the IMF as far as revenue mobilization and taxes is concerned.
Right. So, Aisha, we understand that the current IMF program is supposed to last for 3 years. And if maybe anything happens, we could go for an extension. But the current timeline we have is 3 years. And within these 3 years, Ghana has proposed to the IMF some revenue mobilization, strategies that we will be able to use to bring in revenue in 2024 and some years ahead. Now, if you look at 2024, for instance, government has already informed the IMF some of the fiscal measures that is going to take or revenue measures that is going to take for us to be able to get more revenue in 2024. So I am looking at the IMF program currently, and what government says it will do in terms of revenue measures in 2024 is actually categorized in 3 forms. So we have the direct taxes that government says is going to impose on consumers, or the direct tax that is going to introduce. So let me walk you through some of the direct taxes. So we have the revision and expansion of the gambling revenue. This is supposed to contribute some 0.06% to GDP. We also have the expansion of the entities subject to communication service tax. And if you run through all of these taxes, in terms of the direct taxes, Aisha, we are talking about 5 or 4 taxes. And this is supposed to contribute some 1.96 billion, almost 2 billion cedis to the revenue kitty in 2024. Then you have another angle to this revenue measure, which is the indirect taxes, which is supposed to contribute some 6.4 billion Ghana cedis. Now, in the introduction of some of these indirect taxes, that is where we find the removal of VAT exemptions on selected products. And we know that electricity is one of the products currently exempt from the VAT. And so if you look at the direct taxes that government...
Right, so Kofi J is our lead data analyst, and he's been putting together pieces of documents from the IMF regarding that deal between Ghana and the IMF, and he'll be sharing more with us when we get him back. Now, Kofi J is back on. Kofi, tell me more.
Yeah, Aisha, I was walking you through the indirect taxes that government is hoping to introduce in 2024. These are the tax measures. They are about 5. First one I spoke about is the removal of the VAT on selected products. There's also alignment of the exemptions and relief provisions in the VAT Act with the customs tariff. There's also the introduction of 5% VAT rates on rentals of commercial premises. Now, if you sum all of this, we are supposed to get about 6.4 billion cedis from indirect taxes, including the removal of a VAT exemption on selected products. So we decided to find how much we are likely to get if we are able to do these VAT exemptions or remove the exemptions of VAT of the selected products. And we found out that in 2024 alone, if we are able to do what we've told the IMF, then government of Ghana is hoping to rake in some 4.4 billion Ghana cedis in 2024 alone, including the removal of VAT exemptions on electricity. So Aisha, or 3 different tax brackets that the government of Ghana has already told the IMF is going to introduce. First one is the direct taxes. We have indirect taxes, which includes VAT. And then also there are some administrative measures that government is hoping to introduce in 2024 for us to be able to get more revenue.
So how important are these taxes, especially the VAT, to the revenue mobilization? I mean, there's been talks about whether removing it will affect us or not. How important is actually the taxes to revenue mobilization in this IMF deal?
Indeed, I mean, this will really affect us in terms of our revenue plan for 2024. Because we've already factored in the VAT exemption removal into our revenue projections in 2024. If you look at the revenue that we're expecting in 2024, VAT is the biggest component of the tax or the revenues we're expecting to get from taxes. And government is hoping to go heavy on tax revenues this year. And so you find out that the projected revenue for 2024 tax component is about 80%. Tax revenue is about 80% of the total revenue we are hoping to get in 2024. And if you sum all revenues that government is hoping to get from VAT, we are talking of in excess of 30 billion Ghana cedis. So this is why it is important, because the IMF tax diagnostic team went to Ghana. And they found out that, I mean, if you look at a country like Ghana, VAT exemptions every year annually cost the state some 17 billion Ghana cedis. That's about 2% of GDP. And so government believes that if they are able to remove the exemption of some of the selected products, they could, rake in some 4.4 billion Ghana cedis in 2024.
Kofi J is our lead data analyst. He's with the research desk, and he's been bringing us details of those pieces of documents put together. Definitely there's more on the IMF as we monitor how this negotiation they say they're going to have with the IMF to see if they can remove or eliminate the VAT on electricity consumption. We'll be monitoring and bringing you as it unfolds. Now, the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee, led by Samuel Atachia, has reiterated its commitment to present a balanced report on their investigations into the alleged plot to remove Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare. The committee was tasked with verifying and making recommendations, among other terms of reference, regarding a leaked tape that allegedly outlined a plot to oust the IGP involving top police officers and former Northern Regional NPP Chairman Daniel Bugri-Nabo. But concerns have been raised about possible tensions within the committee due to the delayed report. Samuel Atachia, in a yet-to-be-aired interview on PM Personality Profile, refuted such claims and insists the committee is only being meticulous not to allow anyone to use it as a conveyor belt to serve an interest.
We, as members of the committee, will sit together and look at what the clerks presented. And then when it's fit for purpose, I mean, we'll sanction it, and then I sign, and then the clerk will also sign. What was put in the public domain is so fraudulent that there's no signature of the chairman, there's no signature of the clerk.
Okay.
So who is trying to pretend that the committee has come out with a report?
And the security agencies have assured you that they are doing that?
Well, I'm just waiting for the speaker to arrive, because you see, we pay regard to the speaker, and you shouldn't sit down there and think that by the fact that we're chairman of the committee, you do things without referable to the important person who's called Mr. Speaker. But I'm of the very humble view, that is a criminality that should not be ignored.
Let me ask you this. There's been claims that there's division in the committee. Members are divided on issues. What should we expect from you? A flawless report?
I don't think it will be a flawless report. There's no one yet. Even some people are bold to criticize the Bible. So how can we talk about a flawless report? But I can assure you that people can dissent on critical issues. The most important dimension to that is to capture the dissent. There to be a balanced, a reportage of what happened. That's all you have to do. You can't get everybody agreeing on a particular matter. And dissent is also good for rational engagements. So when people look at the reports, in relating to this matter, Atachi dissented. Fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because when you have a kind of robotic kind of mindset, it will feed into the opinion or public perception that these people are so self-opinionated, they are not interested in facts, and we won't be anybody's conveyor belt, we think. So when the thinking is different, it's permitted.
So with the terms and terms of reference for your engagement, you were supposed to actually proffer some recommendations. Have you done that?
Well, it's all going to be what they will bring before us. I have strong recommendations, but you see, you don't force your views on the committee. You have lawyers in there, you have senior police officers on the committee. You don't force your views on that. But what you think as a chairman is a strong point of view, you can edge it upon them. If you all agree and we converge on that point, fine. If they don't, you can state your position, and that will be part of the report.
You want to share with us some of the recommendations?
I think it will be too premature to write the report which the entire committee has not validated before you and put in the public domain. It is not good.
We'll patiently wait till that report is out.
Had the full interview on Friday, 9 p.m. on the JoyNews channel. Now, Education Minister Dr. Yao Osei Edichum says government is introducing a new initiative to improve teaching and learning in schools. There have been concerns about recent slump in teaching outcomes, which is the basis for this new program. The initiative, to be known as the Community of Excellence Initiative, is to enhance teaching and learning in schools. The ministry has already held an orientation program to sensitize relevant stakeholders ahead of the full rollout of the initiative. Listen to the minister.
Primary 2 students were assessed in Ghana. Only 2% of them could read. Now the data has moved out to 38%, but we are still not satisfied. We want to hit or reach a 90% proficiency level. So in the Community of Excellence, we are tracking performance in the community. We'll test by age 10, which is primary 4, to see how many students are reading proficiently. Reading is a proxy for higher education attainment. If a child can read proficiently by age 10, they are more likely to move on to high school, they are more likely to move on to the university. Because the World Bank has something called learning poverty, and they measure it based on proficiency in reading at age 10. So in Ghana, we want to make sure that we defy the norm. We really move up. In low and middle income countries, it's 53%. Ghana wants to be 90% proficient and not part of the 53 that is not doing well. 53 doing well means that 47 is not doing well. We want to be a country where learning poverty, as defined by the World Bank, will be a thing of the past, and that is why the Community of Excellence has been given birth to. It's to complement all existing reforms. So it doesn't replace Gallup. No, it's to complement Gallup. Additional resources are being given to us by the big win Philanthropy, which is an organization based out of the UK. And with that kind of funding, we want to change education in one village at a time. I always say that if you get a village that get 90% of their students reading for understanding by age 10, if you get a village where 90% of the junior high school students are moving up to high school, if you get a village where from high school 90% is moving up into tertiary, that village's future is going to be different. And as I always say, when you visit that village 10 to 20 years from now, and there's a funeral there will be cars everywhere.
Well, schools and businesses in Kwahu, Bepong in the eastern region remain shut 24 hours after clashes between residents and the police on Sunday. The youth ransacked the chief's palace on Monday, demanding an immediate release of a young man accused of the murder of 2 persons in Kwahu, Eduhuma. The irate youth vandalized the chief's palace to register their displeasure over his refusal to release the suspect to them for mob justice. The situation has led to a clash between the police and the youth, resulting in the reported death of 2 persons and the closure of schools. The police in the last few hours have released a statement on the arrest made so far, and it reads: the Ghana Police Service has arrested 46 more people in connection with the attacks on Bepong Chief's Palace and some police officers at Kwahu Bepong in the eastern region, bringing the total number of suspects so far arrested to 71. The statement continues to say the suspects, together with some others currently on run, attacked the Bepong Chief's Palace on 4th February and injured 7 people, including 5 police officers. They also vandalized 1 police vehicle and 6 police motorbikes, as well as 3 private vehicles. The suspects also caused damage to sections of the palace and an adjoining building. That's a report from the police. It says that the police officers came under attack at the palace when they were called on 4th February to take over a murder suspect, One Kwesi Nyako, who had been arrested by some community members and sent to Bepong Chief's Palace, awaiting the arrival of the police. Now, it says that the law and order have since been restored in the Bepong Township. All the suspects will be put before court to face justice. Listen to the regional minister, Sethi Champon, on the matter.
Very, very calm. Very, very calm. As we speak, the community is calm. We have no disturbances, and members are going about their business as usual. However, the presence of the deployment of law enforcement agents in the system is also a new thing to them. Certain, we should be, all the initiative that it's not normal for them. However, the agencies demand that it happens this way. According to reports that I have received, because of the nature of the disturbance, some community members, out of fear, and left the town. But we are still observing the situation. We are very hopeful that we are not going to go back again. We are going to move forward, and the peace and the seeming stability that we are experiencing now will be deepened so that we don't have any further disturbances. As a result of that, we're going to restore confidence to the community, and the community members back, and then they return to their various assignments. That is where we are pushing.
Okay. We know schools have all been affected. Do we know exactly when from today that schools will likely be opened?
From our discussion, we are hoping and very hoping to get the school children back into school on Wednesday.
We'll be live in that community and we'll be bringing you updates on this matter in our subsequent bulletins. Now, brace yourself for the worst. That's the warning from researchers who say the worst of this year's Harmattan season, characterized by fine particles and suspended dust in the atmosphere, is yet to come. Data from air quality sensors show Accra's air is hazardous for all groups of people, claiming the unenviable title of having the world's worst air quality. IQ Air, an air quality monitoring center with more than a dozen sensors around the country, has ranked the air quality in Accra as the worst, ahead of Mumbai in India and Wuhan in China. Researchers believe the Harmattan will become more intense in the coming days. Analyst with Clean Air Fund, Victoria Owusu-Terrier, says that season is expected to peak in the coming days.
Okay, so for last year, based on meteorology, we normally get the dust coming in during the Harmattan season from the Sahara Desert, the northeast trade winds blowing in the dust into the country. Now, in February, when we had that spike, there was a dust storm raised over the Sahara that brought in higher concentrations of dust into the country and then hitting Accra. And Accra, from evidence or from research, there's been anthropogenic or man-made pollution sources as well. And so coupling that with the dust emanating from the Sahara caused that spikes in terms of pollution levels during February or during the Harmattan last year. Now, from research too, we found that during February we have or reached the peaks, the peak of the Harmattan. So mostly the dust levels, concentration levels are quite high in February. And then along the way, getting to the latter parts of February, it reduces. We get a mixture of dry and wet conditions, getting some few rains here and there, and so improving the quality of air, setting in the rainy season or the wet season.
Okay, so we are getting into February then.
Yeah.
Should we be expecting a similar spike, or we should be peaking at say our Harmattan period?
Yeah, so not a similar spike, I would say, but then during February we will still be experiencing the hazy conditions we are experiencing now, which might of course increase, but not to that level that we experienced last year. From the first weeks of February to the middle part of the month, but however, like I said, getting to the latter parts of the month, we expect that conditions will improve, thereby improving the quality of air over Accra.
The Ghana Meteorological Agency says although the intensity of the Harmattan season in previous years was more intense, this year's Harmattan has lasted longer than previous years. Joshua Samoa is a senior meteorologist with the Ghana Meteorological Agency.
No, every season actually comes with its own intensity. You'll never have two seasons being the same across the globe. That's how it has been. Even for rainfall, you have seasons coming with their own variabilities. So the intensity has not been the same, but we can say that in the past few years, we get very intense Harmattan in the south for a short period of time, and then generally we'll be getting occasional rainfall in between. But for the northern portions, you can see that the intensity will come and last for some time before it relaxes and all of that. Yeah.
Okay, so the month of February, I'm told, is the last stretch of it. Over the years, what was the trend? So is truly February the peak of it and the highest intense more of the Harmattan season?
The peak actually varies.
Okay.
So sometimes you can have the peak in January. There are times that you could even get it in December. But when we compare this year to that of last year, we can say we are getting the peak somewhere around late January into February. But in the northern portions, the peak was somewhere in December, and it was quite intense, very dry conditions. And even the cessation, when the Harmattan actually ends, it ends earlier in southern Ghana than the northern portions. So we'll be seeing the Harmattan coming to an end somewhere in February. And then late February into March, we'll start seeing some rains, bringing the onset of the rainfall season in the southern portions. But Northern Ghana will still be in the Harmattan around that time.
The National Ambulance Service in the Ashanti region has bemoaned the lack of spacious offices and adequate accommodation for paramedics in the region. The Mamponteng and Ejisu stations have for nearly 2 decades operated with only one office space, accommodating a growing staff of over 20 officers. The situation, according to the regional manager of the ambulance service, is adversely impacting service delivery as officers are not always readily available to attend to emergency calls. There's more in this report.
Speaking on the sidelines of the maiden award ceremony for the Ashanti Regional Emergency Medicine Service, manager for the service, Sumik Dute Milon, raised concerns about infrastructural deficit of the service. Mr. Dute disclosed that stations with small office space have officers responding to emergency situations from home. According to him, the situation affects swift delivery of services.
So we lack things, we have infrastructure problems, office accommodations and all that. But gradually, I think for our Ashanti region, we've improved from scratch to a very good stage now. But we still have some few areas, some few districts that don't have infrastructure at all. They have been accommodated by fire service for over 20 years now, and they are still living in a single room accommodation. It's really a big challenge for Ashanti region. Some places like Ejisu, Mamponteng, they are the first stations we opened 20 years ago, but they are still living in a fire service, one single room accommodation with over 20 EMTs working in that office. It's not conducive for us to work with those places.
Congestion at health facilities in the region impedes the operations of the service as officers are compelled to hold patients for several hours. Head of the emergency unit at the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital, Dr. Chris Opon, explains the impact of the challenge as efforts are being made for convenient service delivery.
When they come to our facility, for example, they are unable to offload the patients to us and get back to their station because our hospitals are congested. We have so many patients already in the hospital, and at times it's quite challenging for them to also offload the patients so that they can return to their station. At times, some wait as long as 12 hours, 24 hours, and it's quite unpleasant because there might be congestion at our end, let's say at Konfanochi, but another hospital will have space. If we don't coordinate, we are unable to know. But now we are forming common platforms, WhatsApp, other platforms, so that we can communicate better, especially with the ambulance service, so that we're able to distribute the patient properly.
Despite the challenges, a number of officers served gallantly and diligently and were awarded for their selfless service. CEO of the National Ambulance Service, Professor Ahmed Nuru Adams, charged officers to execute their duties assiduously.
Ghana is the only country we have. Whether EMS succeeds or not, it depends on you. And so try as much as you. And now you have a lot of seniors amongst you. You have paramedics amongst you, you have advanced EMTs amongst you. If you don't know anything, ask for help, ask for support. Continue your CPD programs. Try to equip your skills every day.
For JoyNews, my name is Emmanuel Bright-Kweku.
On your election headquarters, former minority leader Haruna Idrisu has insisted a proposal for reforms by the Electoral Commission to change the time of closing elections from 5 p.m. to 3 p.m. is against common sense. According to him, the move undermines the rights of the electorate. Nana Aljima is on the building Ghana 12, the National Democratic Congress, and has filed this report.
The proposal of the Electoral Commission to introduce 3 new reforms for the upcoming elections have been met with a strong opposition from the NDC. Tamale South MP Haruna Idrisu wants the EC to show respect to the electorate by abandoning the proposal. He was speaking at a town hall meeting at Bushegu in the northern region as part of the NDC's Building Ghana tour.
The second proposal by the Electoral Commission is that we should change the time of voting to 3 p.m. It defies common sense. Common sense. If at 5 p.m. you have a queue, you have a queue. The right to vote established under Article 42 is not a divisible right. It's not a right you can divide. Ope afabi, namin fabi, no. It's a legitimate, full, absolute, constitutional, inalienable right. So you can't tell somebody that when it's 3 p.m., go home. That is above Jean Mensa and the Electoral Commission, even as they overexpress their independence under Article 46. It's a common sense matter. Some people can even finish voting at 10 a.m. because their numbers are not adequate. Some will finish at 2 p.m. Their numbers are not adequate. It makes common sense that whenever you have a queue of Ghanaians, even up to 11 p.m., legitimacy and constitutionalism require that you respect the right to vote. We expect the Electoral Commission to respect that right to vote.
Already, the opposition National Democratic Congress has kicked against the proposal of change in date of the election. Mr. Idrisu insists amendment of some articles of the Constitution by Parliament may fail.
We think they must engage further with stakeholders, and we do not think that Parliament may be able to build a consensus on that matter, because it will require a constitutional amendment to Article 1124 and 113, where reads that general elections shall be held at least 60 days before elections. So you have to come and amend the 60 days to read 30 days. It will mean that you must engage Parliament. We think that this matter must be deferred for the future and allow 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections to be held on 7th December.
Meanwhile, the General Secretary of the NDC, Fifi Fiavikwete, has encouraged electorate to put John Mahama ahead of the NPP's Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in making a choice in 2024. He explained further.
You have been blessed to have a son who can be trusted. A son who has been known as the one who, like Kwame Nkrumah and Rawlings and Prof. Mills, built Ghana. Used little resources to deliver so much development for this country. Another one has been a partner to Nana Akufo-Addo and have systematically seen the total collapse of our country.
Amidst growing concerns over online safety, today marks Safer Internet Day, a global initiative aimed at promoting responsible digital citizenship and safeguarding users from online threats. As the digital landscape continues to evolve, experts emphasize the importance of raising awareness about internet safety practices to ensure a secure online experience for all. Across the globe, there are a lot of websites used by millions of users daily. There were 23.05 million internet users in Ghana at the start of 2023, when internet penetration stood at 68.2%. Ghana was home to some 6.60 million social media users at the beginning of January 2023, equating to 19.5% of the total population. So how do we ensure a safer internet usage? I've been joined by Executive Director of Child Online Africa, Awo Aidam Amenya, and she'll be helping us understand what we need to do to be safe whilst using the internet. Grateful for your time. For so long, we've had cause to complain about how in Ghana, for instance, we are not maximizing the benefits of internet, but rather letting our guards down to be victims of internet fraud and all the bad things you can think of. I want us to first of all look at the enormous benefits we get from this forum called the internet.
Right. Thank you for the opportunity and good morning to your viewers and listeners, Aisha. So internet has been a platform for us for some time now, and we engage on it to do a number of things, including business. And as you can tell, even government business has now moved onto the space, because clearly there is going to be that connection, that measure between the physical and the virtual. And in no time, We see what is happening when it comes to the use of artificial intelligence, when it comes to the use of machine learning, and what have you. So a number of things have evolved when we started the use of the platform. And this evolvement has also resulted in positive and the negatives. But clearly, everything comes with both sides, and it's now our responsibility to ensure that, okay, whatever it is that we want to do, can we make sure that we are doing it in such a way that it does not leave those who are vulnerable more vulnerable than they came, and we are also making sure that the right skills and tools for both young people and adults are in place to make sure that everybody is making the most and having the best experience as much as possible in the space. So clearly, those are some of the things that internet has come to do to us.
Now, let's look at the dangers in using this platform. I mean, there's child abuse issues, there's privacy matters, there's criminal connotations. The list is long. Let's start with the impact on children and privacy matters.
Aisha, unfortunately, I would say that from the inception of the internet, I don't think children were considered as consumers that much. Because if children were that considered, provisions would have been made from get-go to make sure that they are coming into the space will mean this and that to them. Unfortunately, that has not been the case, and it was an afterthought. But then much as it's an afterthought, I would say better late than never. But it doesn't look like we are doing much in that regard, because it seems everybody is at loss as to what can really work to protect children, taking into consideration the fact that they have the right to be in the space. However, to what extent can their rights go, and to what extent can solutions go to help children? Now, what is even worsening the plight for children is the fact that, we encourage innovation. Much as we encourage innovation, everybody is learning to code or to design solutions in one way or the other. And unfortunately, people with bad intentions are also designing solutions, and they are putting them out there on the platform. And unsuspecting consumers are using those platforms. And so that tends to bring about privacy concerns and a number of things, because clearly, if you are going to use a solution and you don't know how much information is being taken from you and what the information is being used for, then clearly you are not safe. And which is why the issue of data protection comes in, and Data Protection Authority will now have to be putting people on their toes to make sure that companies register and they declare how much information they're collecting on people, especially children, who are even not supposed to be consenting to data of themselves being taken. But clearly, before you be able to use a platform, some requirements are made of you, and you have to provide some information. So that is what is bringing the work, or making the work a little bit difficult. And the other thing has to do with the fact that the safety by design protocol, which developed countries are adhering to, developing countries like Ghana are not keeping to that. So it makes it a bit difficult to even hold providers accountable to platforms that they are, or solutions that they are churning out to be used by people, parents, children, and other stakeholders. So we will now have to be doing our homework, to be sitting down and asking ourselves that, okay, what do we have there? What we are putting out there, is it worth it? Can it help to promote what we are talking about? Or is helping to enrich somebody's pocket or somebody's following? So those are conversations we should be having, and it's one of the reasons why we are holding Africa Safer Internet Day, because Africa seems to be one of the laid-back regions, and very little is being done. We don't have Silicon Valley with us here to hold Meta and Co accountable. So how do we leverage on platforms to ensure that, spaces to ensure that our voices are being heard and our needs are being taken into consideration? So it's the essence of this day that we are marking today and globally.
So after all the conventions that Ghana is signatory to, the Budapest Convention, the Malabo Convention, all the others, have we really made progress?
Yeah, we are making progress by ratifying those protocols. However, there's a need for us to go a step further by operationalizing some of those protocols. For instance, the Budapest Convention has a solution to it, which requires that the state agencies and all the signatories or the signatories to the protocol are trained in how to identify or spot child sexual exploitation and abuse. So the question is, have we gone further to operationalize? We haven't done that yet. So it's something we need to do if we want to safeguard the space for children who are being sexually exploited in the space, because it doesn't take magic to spot it. You need some skills and some understanding to be able to know that, okay, this connection with this young person is to groom the child and will lead to ABC. So we will now have to do that heavy lifting at our end to write to wherever the protocol came from in order for them to activate that solution for us as a country, for us to take advantage of. So I don't think we're doing much when it comes to operationalizing some of those protocols that we've ratified. And it's one of the things that we would want to see happening going forward.
And so at this celebration, the conference that you're attending today to mark this day, what are the recommendations that you are going to profile all your other colleagues and other stakeholders to make it better to use the internet?
All right. So in fact, the forum is just about starting, or they've started. I have to be off to attend to you. However, we are expecting that practical recommendations are going to come from our speakers, because we have speakers ranging from fintech right down to artificial intelligence specialists. So if all these people are working within Africa or have the knowledge of the region in mind, they will prefer solutions which will help to empower the minds of young people in our region and also protect their rights whilst they engage in the space. So the recommendations will come, maybe when it's out, I will share those with you. But at the moment, our role is to do the coordination of all these stakeholders across Africa, get their recommendations, table them to the African Union to see how best they can integrate some of those recommendations into existing protocols that they've ratified. And by and large, these will go a long way to helping safeguard the space for children and young people in the region. Aisha.
Grateful for your time. Awo Aidam Amenya. She's Executive Director for Child Online Africa. We're still live on JoyNews Desk. Remember, we're coming to you live from our studios in Kokomilimi. Let's take a break. When we return, there's business for you.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the business segment on JoyNews Desk with me, Pius Kojo Baka. Renewed corporate demand pressure saw the cedi losing value to the dollar last week, increasing its year-to-date loss of to about 1.5%. Now, this is despite the Bank of Ghana's foreign exchange intervention. More in this report.
The Bank of Ghana sold $7 million on the spot market and auctioned $20 million to the bulk oil distribution companies in the forward forex auction. However, the local currency could not hold its ground against the American greenback. It lost 0.6% week on week to the dollar to settle US dollar debt obligations and agricultural sector for seasonal restocking. The cedi also shed 0.64% week on week versus the pound, but remained stable against the euro on the retail market. Analysts expect the cedi to be relatively stable this week and during the Chinese holidays that will span from 9th February to 15th February. They believe corporate foreign exchange demand will be lower this week as importers have generally restocked in anticipation of the upcoming Chinese holidays.
Now, the Ghana Mine Workers Union is calling on the Minerals Commission to resist any attempt by investors of future gold resources to keep the mining concession under care and maintenance. The union is therefore asking for the revocation of the mining license to save the jobs and livelihoods of the people. Speaking at a press conference, General Secretary of the union, Abdul Mumin Gbana, called for a swift intervention from government to ensure the mines operate at full capacity. Here's a report.
Future Gold Resources is reported to be facing some difficulties in recent times with its operations in Bogoso and Pristia mines. This is likely to cost the livelihoods of over 1,000 workers who have been demonstrating and calling on government to save the situation. According to the Ghana Mine Workers Union, there are some foreign and local investors willing to take over the operations to make the mines active again. Speaking to journalists at a press conference on the development, General Secretary for the union, Abdul Mumin Gbana, called on government to get the mines working again as soon as possible.
As a union and as workers, we believe that government must act and act swiftly by ensuring that Blue Holdings, if they have capacity, they must show capacity and demonstrate it by investing in the business, or they must step aside and allow a new investor to take over the mine. Because as I speak to you, we have workers in excess of 2,000, both direct and indirect, who are sitting home.
He therefore believes that any move by the management of Future Gold Resources to put their operations under care and maintenance will hurt the local economy of the entire region.
Workers' livelihoods are at stake, their families are at stake. The community of Bogosu and Pristia, like I said, earn a living directly and indirectly from the mine. The entire Ghanaian economy, we need revenue, and so these are matters that require swift decision making. And so the expectation is that the minister will do the needful by ensuring that Blue Holdings does the needful within the shortest possible time, or they must step aside and allow a new investor to take over the place.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Mines and Natural Resources is expected to hold a meeting with the union concerning the issue before the end of the week.
That'll be all for business. I am Pius Kojo Baka. News continues.
And as I wrap up the bulletin this morning, my name is Aisha Ibrahim. Log on to myjournline.com. There's more of the news and updates of all the developing stories. See you again at 12.